Feminine and masculine. These are two terms that have been very popular over the past few months or maybe even a year. First of all, what do these terms exactly mean? Because there's a lot of, controversy, people saying, oh, toxic this, toxic masculinity and all this stuff. So let's get to the basics. What exactly is masculinity? Let's start with that. Masculinity and even femininity, it's almost two types of energies that defines that person or that gender, let's put it that way. So for example, I'm a man, so masculine is like my core energy. That's what defines, that's what makes me a man, and feminine energy is what makes a woman a woman. When you go to the gym, for example, what is the ratio of men to women? It's probably around 80 to 20 to man. In school, for example, in fifth, fourth, fifth, sixth grade, when you're small kids, how often was it women or girls fighting? It's usually boys, oh, I got more marks than you, or you did something to my book. So they tussle and they fight. When there is an argument in the house, perhaps between your family members or your mom and your dad, usually your dad is the more dominant one. You can't tell why. It's not like he's right or wrong. It's not like he has a better argument points and stuff. You it's inevitably you just get a feeling that okay, this guy's for some reason more dominant when it comes to taking care of children. For example, when you who do you feel more loved from? It's usually your mom, right? When it comes to perhaps being sensitive or very supportive of something, perhaps you're going through a tough time, you women are usually they're more comforting to hear. When you're a kid, your mom probably keep you on the lap and pat you up, and you get my point. This is the difference we're talking about. You will hear people saying, toxic this, toxic this, or Andrew Tate is toxic masculinity, is epitome of that, and this and that. Those are just, people who don't understand anything and they just want to create controversy and get attention. Do not listen to anything because those toxic doesn't even exist. You know, it really doesn't exist. It doesn't even make sense. Are you gonna be like, oh, you're a toxic man for wanting to be strong? Like that's just stupid, isn't it? Feminine woman and masculine men, these are like two energies. Like strip everything apart, all the distractions, the world, everything at the purest, like it's just that energy, that core. In the core, what are you? That's what is masculine and feminine. In at woman, if you take a woman, strip everything off her, it's it's the feminine energy that she has. Same thing with a man. Strip everything, all the distractions, everything away. A masculine energy will remain. Imagine 100 years ago, okay? A father and a son, a 10-year-old boy, they're riding their bike outside. The kid trips over and his knee starts to bleed. What do you think his father would do? His father would most likely, an estimated good estimation or a good, what do you call, prediction to make would probably be he would probably dust off the freaking whatever the leaves that are stuck on his knees or whatever, make sure to tell him that, caution him of, riding it a bit more safer, and they'd continue. Now let's picture yourself at this age. Okay, you're a 10-year-old boy, you're riding your bike outside, you trip over, you injure your knee the same way, it starts bleeding. You head back home. Your dad is not there because he's at work, and your mom is there. What do you think she's gonna do? She's probably gonna put up some bandage or something and probably even shout at you for, trying to do whatever you did that made you fall over, and probably tell you, oh, you should never go outside again, or you should never ride too fast again, or you should never try the stunt again. I remember this exact time. I think I was like, I don't know, maybe 10. I was riding and this kid literally like comes out of nowhere, and the back of my bike literally goes like this. So imagine my bike going like this, and it literally, the back behind wheel of my bike literally goes like 90 degrees, and I badly get injured. And I was literally crying to my mom, and she's like, don't ever go again. Sure, you can ride your bike, but don't go too far outside, or don't ride too fast. And that is the feminine energy taking over. You see, you can't blame women because that's just the way they are, but it is the father figures that we're missing nowadays. We don't see, and you can't really, it's just the way the situation is, it's just the way society is, You think back to school where everything starts, your education, that's the first thing after, a couple of years after you're born, 3, 4 years later, the first thing you go and join the nursery or kindergarten or school. That is such a feminine environment. You're literally being forced. It always pisses me off every time I think about this. You're literally, as a man, a little boy, being forced to sit in a class for 6 hours and listen to a teacher that probably doesn't have any idea what she's talking about, and you have to follow her orders. The people that'll disagree with me in this point, The people who are stuck in the previous generation, the people who, want to cope and say, that's just how it is, and yeah, you get my point. But if you agree with what I'm saying, then you're obviously not a normal person. And that's the issue nowadays. We're almost brought up in a feminine way. This path that we have, society has set for us, it's so feminine. And when I say feminine, that's not a bad thing, but for a man, it is a bad thing. You don't want to become a feminine man. That's just ridiculous. You don't want to become one of those, short, puny little boys who, wear skinny clothes and wears pink all the time and, acts like this. They're probably the guys in your class, someone, they do this little thing, something like this. That's just feminine energy. And as a man, you don't want that. You really don't. Unless, I mean, if you want it, sure. I'm not telling you what you can and not do, but if you want to be the pinnacle of a man, you can't. The feminine energy should be kept away from you. A few months ago, I read this book called The Way of the Superior Man. It is one of the most eye-opening and interesting books I've ever read. I highly recommend you guys to read it because it's like it'll teach you so much about how women and men actually like just basically function. And it's like no matter what happens, there's a certain way that a man or a woman will react to a situation. So let's just say, why do you think a lot of the pilots in airplanes or you take the drivers on, why do you think they're men? Because men can handle pressure situations more. Imagine this, okay? There's a guy driving the plane, okay? The pilot, he's on the plane, and something's wrong, okay? Something wrong. Maybe there's huge rain or stormy weather or whatever, and something goes wrong. Do you think a woman or a man would handle that situation better? Most women, you're talking probably 85 out of 100 women, would panic in that situation. And the man is the one who stays calm and composed and uses his head. That's why they're trusted with those jobs. We, make these stupid arguments, oh, woman empowerment and all this stuff, which is great, which is great. I'm not here to, say that's wrong, but there's a reason that, men are more suited to certain things, and people, when you look at, okay, getting a certain task, a certain job done, it's always the man who's trusted more, and there's a reason for that. It's not that, oh, we just blindly trust man. No, there's a reason for that. Most times, any work, physical thing, it's a man who gets the job done the best. You little feminine woman, feminists can sit and say, oh, a man doesn't know anything, we don't need men in our lives anymore. I've seen those videos, some stupid young 20-year-old woman saying, we don't need men anymore, they're useless. They're sitting in a couch or whatever house they're sitting in is literally made by a man. And I think that's enough to sum up my point.